Okay, so welcome back, everybody. This is Wednesday. This is our second lecture, second day of Art 195, 3D modeling. This semester we're using LightWave. Probably next semester I will be using Blender, but we'll see. Anyway, one of the things that I don't think that I covered in our intro the other day was showing you examples of student work, past student work from this class that I think is really quite stunning. Here's an example of a toy, and it turned into her final assignment by Catherine Rojo. So this is a combination of techniques and mostly incorporating organic modeling, which we get to in the middle of the semester. This is another toy that was done by Ray Gabriel Benang. It's really the same toy, but this I think is one of the advantages of working in 3D is that you can duplicate it and modify it and view it from multiple positions, which you can't do in Illustrator or Photoshop. Okay, that's another nice example. Example of a product. This is one of our final projects that Jacob Rodriguez did. So this could be an option for you if you want to do a character, or you want to do a toy, or you want to do an environment. There's lots of different possibilities, and that's what I'm trying to show here. Okay, and throughout the semester, we will be doing other projects together, like the one that will start today, the table and lamp, that will get you started. Okay, to learn all the tools and really my approach to building models. This one was done by Benjamin Murado, combination of toy and character, both done really beautifully. Now, he, along with a couple of others, were really the, model students. Another good example of a product, Brianna Ray did this a few semesters ago. Pretty straightforward, but looks really very believable. Nicely done. This one, Victor Lopez, again, one of my best students ever, did this character. Actually two characters, but the principal character is the one that you see to the left. Another product. This was done a long time ago by Johnny Nader, but still a stunning example of a really nice product. An environment. I have a couple of them. This is an old one too by Samuel Groh of an exterior that's done quite nicely, where you really get the sense of ambiance, and a sense of place, a little bit of fog and everything, subtlety. Another character done quite a while ago by Timothy McKinney. Hold on one second, everybody. Come on in. Come on in. And then another example, nicely done, a chess set. And then a good example of an alien piece. Jessica French did this a couple of semesters ago. Integrated, she did not do the entire background, but one of the things that we do in here is, in this class, is to teach you how to create a composite. So she did this alien kind of robot and then integrated it with a background so that it looks like it's actually a part of the scene. That's an important part of this class. And then this one was done a semester or two ago by Poonam, where she did the interior of a gallery. Very nicely done. And this one was done, again, several semesters ago, but it's a nice approach because it's unique, it's futuristic. I continue to enjoy looking at it because it's really different from anything that I've seen in the past, and is an excellent use of LightWave. And then this one too was done just a couple of semesters ago of a whale. So using organic modeling. And I think, yeah, that's it. So there's some good examples of that have been done from this class, a good variety, a good range. The class itself for 3D modeling has a high learning curve, but by the end of the semester, if you work hard, you can go in any direction you want, from a very mechanical but detailed product to a very organic looking object like the whale, or an environment like the interior or exterior of a building. So those are some good examples. Another thing, let's see, we have a question here. So let me go ahead and look at questions. Erica Malarna says, how can we work on LightWave? I'm new at the 3D world. Okay, you have to go, if you watched my video, my orientation video, you need to download LightWave from NewTek. And on my page here, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and answer live, and I'm done answering. So let's go ahead and move this up here. What you need to do is, if you go to Kirk's, yeah, we're already at Kirk's classes, but if you go to either handouts or weekly syllabi, what you need to do is you need to go to NewTek. And when you click on NewTek's website, there is a 30-day trial version. And it's a full version of the 2020 edition. And you can download it for Windows or Macintosh. Now, if you choose to purchase it, you can purchase it through NewTek. And that is a little pricey. It's for a student rate or a faculty rate is $195. Another source for that is NoVeg, and you can get discounted prices through them as well. You have to prove to both of them that you are a student if you choose to purchase it. Another workaround is, and this is a little awkward, but if you want to continue through the semester and to work on this for free, when your 30-day trial nears its end, then what you need to do is use or create a separate email address, and you sign up with them again, and you get another free 30-day trial with a separate email address. That's the only thing that they look at. It's not important whether you're a student or you're faculty or you're not, or you're a professional. A 30-day trial is a 30-day trial. So does that answer your question or no? Okay, another one. Yes, I did. Juan, I figured out the problem with the syncing. It was a very simple issue. I thought I had saved the file, and that's what I'm going to start with today, but when it's not saved, then it won't sync. So I had to save it again, and as soon as I saved the file, it was synced up, non-issue. So that works really nicely. Okay, yeah, it figured that out in a heartbeat after the class was over. But sometimes when I'm in the midst of doing this, it's kind of difficult to tell what's going wrong. And we were running up against the end of our hour anyway, so I decided it would be best to finish it then. So let me go ahead and start again. So I'm going to review just a little bit before I get going with the table and lamp. And then I will take you through this, and we'll go through it again next week as well, and make sure that everybody is on board. But again, just to give you kind of the lay of the land, at the moment I am in Modeler, okay? And if I switch, now I'm in Layout. Layout is where you finish up your project and you finalize the surfacing, and then you set up the lighting and the camera, and you either create a video, which we don't do in this class. That would be for Chris's class. And then in our class, we just do a still image, which is a single final rendering. But this is where you have to go to do your final, your piece. Where we spend most of our time in this class is in Modeler. Modeler is where you build your models, and you can do some pretty sophisticated surfacing, but I don't like to do that here. I like to just set up temporary placeholders and do all the final surfacing in layout. I have another question here. How do we get on Modeler? Did you Erica, did you download LightWave from NewTek? Because you won't find it on Canvas, or you won't find it on my website. And you did install it. So if you installed it on your computer, you should be able, there should be 2 applications, actually 3. Once you've installed it correctly, and you'll have to double click on Modeler to open it. Any luck? Well, let me continue, and maybe towards the end of the hour, I can help some of you with, or at a later time today or tomorrow, we can have a private webinar or Zoom meeting, and you can share your screen with me, and I can see what's going on. Okay. It's installing LightWave is not as simple as installing Photoshop or Illustrator. But you do have to follow their instructions on NewTek's website. Okay. Are there any other questions? No? So when you have installed it, I guess I can hide some of this for a moment. I can show you. If we look in my hard drive, and we look in applications down here, where do I find it? It will be either in NewTek or it will be in LightWave. Here, yeah, all the way here, LightWave 2018. When I double click on that folder, you can see that there's the hub, there's layout, here's the license. Okay, and here's LightWave 2018 content. There's a whole bunch of things in here, but what you will need is for this class, to make sure that you can open it, is the modeler. That's this one. That's the most important one for today. And then you'll need layout here. And then you should be, hub will open automatically. Okay. So I'm going to go back to Modeler, and let's continue and see what we can accomplish today. Over to the left in the top, where you find all of your tools. The first tab at the top is your Create tab. These are all the tools that you generally use to build basic objects. If you want to move the object, rotate the object, resize the object, or whatever, if you want to modify it in any way, then you select the Modify tab, and all of the Modify tools are found here. Once you've created an object, if you wish to modify it in some way, but add geometry to it, if you want to round corners, if you want to do any number of things to it, but generally add geometry to it, then we go to the Multiply tab. You can also go to the Construct tab for doing that as well. The Detail tab is another one that if you want to take and you want to edit and join parts together, like using the Weld tool, that would be a good tab to use. But all of these tabs along the top are the locations of a whole variety of tools. Where we will spend our time today will principally be with the Create tab and the Modify tab. Okay, so we'll start with the Modify tab. I also explained on Monday when I was giving you a very brief overview of LightWave that I prefer, when teaching the class, using the quad view. So, and I'm pretty rigid about where the location of each of the quadrants. In the upper left-hand corner, you should have the top view. In the upper right-hand corner, you should have the perspective view. In the bottom left-hand corner, you should have the back or front view. The default with LightWave is back. And to the right, I like using not the left, but the right view. Okay. Then also, if you switch on this little drop-down menu here, typically in the top view, I use wireframe. In perspective view, I either use texture wired or texture view. And that can be found by clicking and pulling down on this tab here. In the lower left-hand corner in the back view, again, I use wireframe. And in the right view, I also use wireframe. Okay, and that should become apparent in a minute when I show you how to build. So let's go ahead and start by building the table today. And if we can start with work on the lamp, that will be great. And if not, then we will continue with that on Monday. The other thing that you need to pay attention to along the bottom is that, are you in point mode, edge mode, polygon mode, volume mode, or is your selection center the center of the mouse, the selection of the center of the selection, the pivot point, or the origin of the object? At a later date, you may want to turn symmetry on. That's very useful for when you're building characters. You will generally build half of the character and the other half will automatically be built by turning symmetry on. Likewise, when you edit it, symmetry will be useful. And then we will switch back and forth between poly mode and organic or subpatch mode. And that gets more complicated. We'll talk about that later. So to begin with, if you want everything optimized and set up so that it fits in all of the windows, hit the A key, and that will fit everything to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by building our table today, just to give you an introduction to building in LightWave. I like having the Numeric Requester up. I like also having point statistics. If you don't remember where those are, I will close them and I will show you where they are. If you can remember the Numeric Requester, it's N for Numeric Requester and N to turn it off. You also have at the bottom down here where it says numeric, that will bring the Numeric Requester up as well. For the other panel, what you need to do is under more windows, what you want is the statistics panel right here. It's the first one. And because point statistics or points are selected, then the point statistics will be visible. If I have polygon statistics selected, then notice that polygon statistics are selected. So I'm going to leave it polygons. I'm going to leave the Numeric Requester up, and we're going to start by building the tabletop. So the table that I'm going to build today is going to be about the size of a card table. So it's about 36 inches by 36 inches, and I'm going to exaggerate the depth a little bit, or the thickness and make it about 2 inches. So I can do that a couple of different ways. I can work with a top view and click and drag like so. And there I have the top of the table, and then from either the back or the right view, I can click and drag and pull up the thickness of it. But when you're looking at it in these views, you don't know what size it is, do you? So that's where the numeric requester is helpful. By default, it's in meters, but it can convert to inches, or you can put in inches and it will convert to meters quite easily. So for example, if I want the width to be 36 inches, I'll just type in 36 with a double quote, which is used in mathematical representation of inches, and then hit the tab key. And now that's 36 inches wide. I want the height to be 2 inches. So I put in 2, and I put in the double quote, and then I hit the tab key. Now, the thickness of it here, you can see from the back and the right view is now 2 inches. And now the depth is, I want that to also be 36 inches. So I'll hit 36 inside the numeric requester, and then also make sure that I put the double quotes, because if you don't, it's going to assume that you mean meters, and that will be a really big table. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the tab key again, and I'm going to go ahead and fix it. If I want to change the height of this, which isn't a bad idea at this time, I can do that later, but why not do it now? It will determine where the center is. Now the center right now is at 0 along the x-axis. Remember, the x-axis is on the top view is left to right. From the back view, it is also left to right. And then on the y, because I've given it thickness, it's already up a little bit, but I'm going to change it even more. Let's go ahead and go back to the default, and I'll make it 0. Okay, so it's really in the center of our universe. But I'm able to actually float the tabletop by putting in the y distance. And typically the height of tables is about 30 inches off the floor. So I'm going to put in 30 inches, 30, and with double quotes, and I'm going to hit the tab key. And so now it's lifted off the ground, and I have my tabletop finished. So if you recall from my quick demonstration on Monday, anytime you want to use a tool, you have to select the tool. Anytime you're done with a tool, you have to deselect it. So I'm done making the tool, or done making my tabletop. I'm done with the box tool. So now I have to turn it off. And now it isn't fixed in space. If I want to change its size, or I want to change its proportions or anything, I have to use a different tool. Okay, it is now permanently fixed until I use another tool to alter it. It looks really small in my screen here, so I'm going to hit the A key so that it fits. And then I can go up to the upper right-hand corner, and I can use this widget here because it's in perspective mode, and I can spin it, and I can look at it from the top, and I can look at it from the bottom here, so I can get a sense of how this looks. Okay, and I can I'll change that a little bit by using the Alt key. Okay, so there's our tabletop. Now the next thing that I like to do, and this is a habit of mine, it's something that you don't have to do, but later on we're going to want to change this from a generic kind of white surface to maybe something that looks like glass, or we want it to look like wood, or we want it to maybe look like marble. I mean, who knows? Whatever kind of surface you want it to look like, you can. But we will do that in layout at a later time. For today, what I want to do is to just put a placeholder here, and that can be any color. So to do that and to set up a name for that surface, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Q key. So when I hit the Q key, let's go back in here, hit Q. There we go. And what that does is it says change surface. I don't want this to be the default surface, but I will name it tabletop. Okay. And now I can click on the color bar here. And I'm going to make it kind of a nice bright red. Why not? In the end, do I want it to be red? No. But for right now, red is just fine. Okay. So that when I save it and I send it over to layout, these presets for surfaces will already be named and ready to go, and I can adjust them any way, shape, or form that I desire. So that's one of the things that I like to do. This would be a good time to save. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. And if you recall from my Monday quick demonstration, is that you need on your computer somewhere a content folder. And within that content folder, you need an image folder, an object folder, and a scene folder. Well, I'm going to, because this is my object, I'm going to save it in my object folder. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to go to, it's already set up for objects, but to make sure that it's going in the right folder, I'm going to go to Desktop, and I should be able to find Content Fall 2020. That's the folder that I made on Monday. And I'll name this Table. Okay. It will automatically add the extension LWO for LightWave Object. So now it's saved. The next step that I want to take is that I want to create the legs. And you need to decide what kind of legs do you want. And in this particular instance, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make cylinders for legs. And I'm going to show you kind of a quick way of doing it. It really depends on how far you've zoomed in on all of this. But you'll notice that my grid is a nice size here. So I can use the intersection of the grids for the placement of my table legs. So what I'm going to use, since I want them to be cylinders, is the disc tool. So instead of box, I'm going to use disc. Why they call it the disc tool instead of the cylinder tool, I don't know. But it is the case that as soon as you make, I'm going to use the top view here, a click and drag here. This is just a flat disc. So it is a disc tool, but as soon as I extrude it, it will become a cylinder. Now, again, with the Numeric Requester visible, I want to make sure that it's 24 sides and one segment. Later on, we will change the number of segments. We will change the number of sides, but right now I want 24. I'm just going to use the default. Then from either the back view or the right view, I'm going to extend, okay, the length of my, move this up, table leg like so. And I want it to be about, again, the length of this to be about 30 inches. So I'm going to check, I'm going to double check by looking at the Numeric Requester. Number one, I want to make sure that the radius is the same for the X and Y. And notice that they're not the same. So I want to make sure, or actually, I'm sorry, they are. The X and the Z. The X is 35 and the Y is 35. So I have a perfect circle or round cylinder. Under the Y-axis, I'm going to make it, again, about 30 inches. So I'll type in 30, and I'm going to put in double quotes and hit the tab key. There you go. So that says that's 720. Is that right? Let me go ahead. That can't be right. So I'm going to go ahead and Y. I'm going to put that again, 30, and I'm going to put double quotes and hit the tab key. I'm going to go ahead and change this. Let's go ahead and move it like so. I'm going to move it here, and I'm going to bring this up to here. So this is really kind of the bottom of the table, or the floor level right here. So that works for me. So it should be about 370 millimeters, not the 700. I don't know why it was doing that. So I want to make multiple legs, but I want them to be identical to one another. Okay, so there's a quick way of doing that. I can zoom in here using the zoom tool. And now what I'll do is I'm going to move this into position like so, make sure that it's right on that intersection. And then I'm going to right click and drag. And when I do that, it makes a copy of it. And notice it just slides right along the X-axis and the Z-axis. Okay. And now I'm ready to make a third table leg, and I'll right click and drag again. And once you have done that, the other one is fixed in space until you select it and move it separately. Now, what I'm going to do is right click and drag again and move that into position one more time. Okay, now I'm done with my table legs, and I'm going to turn off the disk tool and fix it. So now I have my legs, and I'm ready to go ahead and assign a temporary surface to them. But there's a gotcha here. There's something that I intentionally did wrong that you'll see. Because if you recall from my lecture on Monday, if not in LightWave, if nothing is selected, then everything is selected. So if I go ahead and I hit Q and I say I want this to be table legs, I'll go ahead and name table legs, and let's make them green. That's with a heck of it, or blue or something like that. How about green? Green's a good color here. And I click OK. Notice that it changed the top as well, because they're both on the same layer. They are both in the foreground, and the legs by themselves were not selected. So if I want to change that, then this is what I have to do. I either have to undo, that's one way of doing that. So I could undo like so. And now what I would have to do is I would have to select the table legs separately. That would be one way of doing that. And another way to do that would have been to put them on a separate layer. So let me do it. Let me show you a couple of different ways. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the table legs. So I'm going to go ahead and just click and drag across here and click and drag across here. And I'm doing this from the back view. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and select some more polygons. Now to make sure that all of the legs or all of the polygons connected to the legs are selected, I'm going to go to Select and I'm going to say Select Connected. Now all of the legs are selected. And remember, you have to be in polygon mode to do that. Now I'll go ahead and I'll select Q. I'm going to go ahead here and see I did undid, so I don't have table legs saved anymore. So I'll name this one table legs. And I'll go ahead and with green selected, I'll click green and we're done. So there you go. Now I can go ahead and in the lower left-hand corner, I can click and deselect. Now they're on the same layer and the legs by themselves have been edited and changed. So other ways of doing that. What I probably should have done is actually selected a separate layer when I was building it. So let's do that. I'm going to undo a couple of times, get rid of the legs, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to select a brand new layer in the upper right-hand corner, and then I'm going to click on the bottom half of the first layer so that I can see in the background layer the tabletop, and then I'll build my table legs on a separate layer and then join them together later. Kind of like, you know, when you buy your furniture at IKEA, it comes in parts and then you put it together when you take it home. So I'll build the legs again, but this time I'm using 2 layers initially to do this. So again, I'll select the disk tool. I'm going to click, and let me zoom in a little bit so I can see this a little bit better. Move in a little, like so. And I'm going to click and drag from the top view, like so. And I want to make sure that the X and the Z radius are the same. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And then I'm just going to click from either the back view or the right view. And I'm going to stretch until, click and drag until it touches the bottom of the table and the top of the floor. Zoom in a little bit again so I can be a little bit more accurate with this. There we go. Okay, so I have my first table leg, and then again, I can go ahead and move this a little, and I'll right click and drag, pull this over, and I'll right click and drag to pull this over, and I'll right click and drag and pull this over. Now remember, I'm doing this from the top view, the back view, and or the right view. And I really am not touching the perspective view at all, except to see a final version of this. And now what I can do, because it's the table legs are the only thing that are in the foreground, and they're on their own separate layer, I can hit Q, and let's see if I still have, I do have tabletop. No, it's tabletop, so I need to make table legs again. Table legs. Click OK. They're all green. And now what I can do is I can hold down the Shift key and put both of them in the foreground. Now they're on separate layers, but they're both in the foreground. So I can either leave it this way, and for some types of models, you're going to want to do that. But in this particular instance, what you're going to want to do is you're going to, instead, you're going to join them together. Just like I was using the metaphor of IKEA furniture that you're going to screw the legs on. So to do that, I'm just going to select the leg layer here, make sure that it's in the foreground, and I'm going to hit Command X for cut. Okay, so yeah, and now I can go over to the left here, and I can hit Command V, and now they're pasted. Now they're both on the same layer. So Erica, the question that you have, I just noticed it. Where are layers? They are in the upper right-hand corner. I don't know if you see my mouse here. These are layers. You can also, if you wish, you can go to more window, or actually over here under editors, and you can click here and it will bring up a layers panel. Now you can see that I have on one layer, I have a table, and you can add layers from here if you wish. By default, in the upper right-hand corner, it gives you a total of 10 layers. And then if you need any more, you can add them here in the layers panel. As I said, is found over here, and you can turn that off or turn it back on from over here. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah, it's a little, layers are a little bit different in LightWave than they are in Illustrator and Photoshop. You can have multiple layers in LightWave, but LightWave's layers are either in the foreground, background, or they're invisible. They are not stacked like sheets of paper, one on top of another, like they are in Illustrator or Photoshop. So it's a slightly different concept, but they call them layers just the same. Okay. So again, if you want to select a layer or create a brand new layer, you just go up to the upper right-hand corner and click, and now I have a brand new layer selected. If I want the table in the background, I click the bottom half. If I want them both to be in the foreground, then I hold down the Shift key and I click the top half of that background layer. If I want it to be in the background, I select the background, and I still have the other layer in the foreground. So it's a combination of clicking, and they don't have to be done in order either. So this would be a good time to save this. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and make sure the table is selected, and I'm going to go ahead and save table, and I'm going to replace the old with the new. Okay. How's everybody doing? You don't follow along with me. This will be recorded. You're welcome to go back, and if you have questions for me later, we can go over this as many times as necessary. This is just getting you started with some basic building blocks using what are called over here, these are all of your primitives. Now, where are we at with time here? We have 15 minutes left, maybe a little bit more, depending on, maybe a little bit more. But all of these forms can be edited. They can be modified in any number of ways. And so I want to do that and show you how to do that, but you're not required to do that for this particular project, okay? But it's important that you feel comfortable using these tools. So I'll show you. So for example, what if I wanted to make the top of my table a little bit thinner, or if I wanted to make it thinner, or if I wanted to, on a later date, maybe I wanted to round the corners of it. Okay, I could do that because right now it has sharp edges. Let's just focus on changing the size of it, the thickness of it. What I could do is I can, because they're on the same layer, I need to make sure that just the tabletop is selected now. So if I only want to change the thickness, I can do that one of two ways. Maybe there's more ways that I'm not thinking of at the moment. So as long as I have polygons selected in the perspective view, if I click the top, notice that I only have the top polygon selected. Now it's a little bit different when you select, let me deselect that. If you select polygons from wireframe, then if I select a polygon from the back view, notice that the bottom and the back polygon are selected. So it will select everything in it that's visible. But when you're in texture mode and you are in perspective view, it will only select the polygons that you want. Now on perspective view, if I click on the polygons again, it will deselect them. So if I move to the bottom and I click here, that deselects it. And again, if I rotate and I click on the back, that's another way of deselecting it. Another way to deselect them all, so again, if I click again to select a bunch of them, is to come down here to the bottom left-hand corner and click, and that's a way of deselecting polygons or deselecting an object. For today's assignment, no, you're going to parrot me and you're going to make the table. And don't turn it in yet, just save it. And when we're done with the lamp, which will be on another day, then we will have a table and lamp, and then we're going to send the table and lamp over to layout, and we're going to finalize the surface textures, and we're going to work with lights and cameras and do a final rendering of it. And when we're done with that, then you will render it and you will send it over or put it on Google Drive. Okay? Yeah. The toy we won't do until about midterm. Okay, is everybody clear on that? So right now we're just working on the table and lamp. I want you to be familiar with the layout and the workspace in LightWave and in layout, you know, as well as modeler. And then we're going to build a more complicated model together, which will be the reboot character. And when we're done with that, then we will do the toy. So we're kind of working together right now. There are no video tutorials other than the one that I'm recording right now. Unfortunately, there isn't any support at all. There isn't much support at all for LightWave, except what you may find on YouTube, and maybe a few tutorials on NewTek's website, but not much at all. That is one of the downsides to using LightWave. So I was going to get back to editing this. So let's just select the top polygon here. Now I can go to modify and I can select move. So if I select the move tool, and it doesn't matter where the mouse is, but if I click and I drag, notice how thick the tabletop is. I can move it up, and if I'm not careful, I move it over like so. Command Z to undo, Command Z to undo. really when you're moving it, if you hold down the control key as you move, it should constrain the movement up or down. Okay, then when I'm done moving it, in order to deselect, you have to turn off move, and you have to then deselect the polygon. So remember, when you want to use a tool, you have to select it. When you're done using the tool, you have to deselect it. If you have a specific polygon or polygon sets or whatever is selected, or the object, you have to make sure that they are deselected when you're done. But remember, if nothing is selected, then everything is selected. So another thing that maybe I would like to do, maybe I want to rotate the tabletop, or maybe increase the size of it. So let's go ahead and increase the size of the whole table. So again, what I can do is I can select maybe a couple of polygons, like so, and then up in the upper left-hand corner, where it says select, under selections, I'll say select connected. So now all of the polygons that make up, all of the 6 polygons that make up this tabletop are now selected. So now what I can do is I have 2 ways of changing the size of this. I can, under the modify tab, down at the bottom, I can use the stretch tool, or I can use the size tool. There are 2 versions of the same thing. The size tool will uniformly change the scale of the object. So if I change this to 150%, watch what happens. And then I select apply. Boom, look at that. Let me zoom out of here. It changed the thickness and the height, and it just moved everything up. I don't want to do that. What if I only wanted to change 2 of the measurements, the width or the length of it? This is another way that you can do it. That if I select the stretch tool, again, you want it to stretch it from the center of the position of the mouse or the center of selection. I'm going to leave it the center of selection. And then from the top view, I'm going to click and drag, and notice that as I move the mouse, push it away from me, it gets wider. Now if I pull it closer to me, it gets narrower. And when I move it to the right, it stretches it to the right. And if I move it to the left, it stretches it and makes it smaller, like so. So that would be another way to resize it. Hit Command Z, undo, and bring it back. I'm done stretching it, and now I go ahead and I deselect the tabletop. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that because I've made changes to my table, that in the upper right-hand corner right here, this shows you a list of all the objects that you have open at the time. And you can only have be working on one object at a time physically, but you can have multiple objects open. Notice the little asterisk next to the table. That means it's been modified and those modifications have not been saved. So now if I hit Command S, it just saves it and updates it. If you want to make the tabletop bigger and the base or the legs smaller, then you have to, you either may want to start over, or you may just want to select them separately and modify them. And then you're going to have to use the move tool to move them in place. It's helpful, isn't always the case, but it's helpful if you do some pre-planning. And because I've done this lesson a gazillion times, I know pretty much in advance the sizes that I want to use and the placement. But it's all very doable. You know, you can make the tabletop bigger and select it and make it bigger. And then you can select one of the legs and make them smaller, and then duplicate that for the other table legs. And then you're ready to go, but you're gonna have to move them in place. So I'm trying to show you, by doing it this way, an efficient, effective way of doing it. How can you select the object? It's already selected. So if For example, if I want to make this the entire object smaller, it's already big, it's already connected. So what I can do is I can select the size tool. Now I can just click like so. Notice how it's making it smaller. If I click and I drag, and if I click and I drag to the right, it's making it bigger. Now, if I want to make it bigger or smaller from a specific location, then instead of the origin of the selection, I'm going to select the mouse as the origin. And if I click right here, notice that where my mouse is on the floor, and I click and I drag, notice that it makes it smaller from the position of my mouse. And if I click and I drag, it's making it bigger from the position from there. So I'm going to save this, and rather than move on to the lamp, I'm going to show you a couple more things and then we'll call it a day. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new object. So I'll select new, and we have a brand new object. Now you'll notice this one is unnamed, it hasn't been saved, but I can still always go back to the table. So this is unnamed. Hit A to center everything. And let me show you, again, it's helpful to think in advance. So what I'm going to do is maybe I want a round table instead of a rectangular one. So what tool would I use for that? I would probably use the disk tool. And again, if I want it to be about, what diameter do I want? So probably the same, about 36 inches. So, but it's going to do, we're going to use 24 sides in one segment. And now you have to know what the radius is. And right now it's 2.5 meters. That's the radius. So that's 6-7 feet is the radius. So that's a 15-foot table. That's a big round table. So if I want the radius to be about 18 inches, I'll put 18 and then double quotes, and I'm going to hit the tab key. Now that only does it for the X. So now I have to do the same for the Y or the Z. So I have to put in 18 double quotes. So that's exactly 36 inches in diameter. 18 inches is the radius. And now the Y, I'll make it the same as I did before, 2 inches. Now I have a table that's 36 inches in diameter, and it's 2 inches thick. Now, if I want to make it a little bit thinner, I can click it here, like so, until it looks respectable. And when I'm done with it, I go ahead and I click and turn off the disk tool. And now I can, in the perspective view, I can zoom in here to see what that table looks like. Now, one of the things that I didn't do is that I didn't lift it off the floor. And I can do that now, but really it would be easier if I did it with a Numeric Requester. So what I might do is just hit Command Z to undo, and then select the disk tool again. And when I do, what it does is it takes me back to the settings that I used last time. So what I'm going to do now is the center of it is I'm going to go, let's go ahead here. Let's go to Action, Activate. And it goes back to the last settings that I used. And what I can do now for the Y is I'm going to put that at 30 inches so that it's off the ground. So that's a quicker way than just trying to move it manually. Okay, hit the tab key and that moves it up. And then maybe what I want to do, let's zoom out a little bit here. And I'm going to make this a little bit thinner. There we go. Looks a little bit more respectable. Okay. So we'll go ahead and we'll fix it in space. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the table legs underneath. So what I want to do this time is I'm going to click on a new layer, and then I'm going to put the tabletop in the background. And similar to what I did before, if I want, 4 legs, depending on where I want them, I can zoom in to see a little bit tighter grid. That might be a little bit better here. So I can go ahead and let's go ahead. And this time we're going to use, instead of a cylinder, let's use a box. So I'm going to go ahead and make a table leg here, like so. And again, I'm doing this from the top view. And then I'm going to go ahead and stretch it from the back view, top to bottom, like so. Okay, and then when I'm ready to make another table leg, on top of that object on my top view, I right click and I drag over here, like so. And then I right click and drag like so. And then I right click and drag like so. Now, see, I need to move some of those. I goofed. But it's okay, I can fix it. Now what I can do is I can come back and I can select this one. And I can say select connected. And I can go back to modify and select the move tool. Where are we? Move, T for move. And now I can zoom in a little bit. And we can move this into position until it's, matches the other one that I have. And likewise, actually it needs to be moved up. There we go, like so. And the same with this one. So I'll turn off move, deselect, and now we'll select this one. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say select connected. Make sure that they're all parts are selected, and now I can move this over a little bit. Whoops. Nope, I forgot. Select connected. Now T for move. And I can move this over a little bit so that they, are in alignment with one another. Okay, turn off move, deselect. And now they're on separate layers. So I can assign surfaces to them. I can put both of them in the foreground layer by clicking on the foreground like so. I can zoom out. I can, see it from any angle. And it's a little wonky at the moment. So I'm trying to do this on the fly. You see, when I do things, extemporaneously, I make mistakes. So I would have to go back in and select individual table legs and move them or resize them or do what I have to do. So does that help you guys? It's a good way to get started. So for today, we're just going to focus on our table, and that's it. And then next Monday, I will demonstrate how to make a lamp using more tools and more, different ways of modifying and reforming the shape. Erica, don't put the table on Google Drive yet. We'll do that next week. Just make sure that it's saved in your object folder. Okay? Yeah, nothing is due today. This is a slow process. LightWave, as our other 3D modeling programs, are really robust. They're extremely complicated. So it's going to take us a while to actually build something very simple and get acclimated to the program. Are there other questions before we leave today? This recording will be available shortly thereafter, so that you can go back and review and try to pick it apart. And if you have questions, write them down, and I will try to answer those first thing Monday morning. But the important thing, what you might want to do is to, over the weekend, is to experiment with some of the other primitive tools and see how they work, how they function. And at the same time, try some of the other modification tools, because we have move, drag, snap, drag, tweak. There's a whole bunch of them. I only use a handful of them. You really only need them, but they have tons of them. One for every purpose you can possibly think of. Okay. No, not tomorrow. We're just meeting Mondays and Wednesdays, and that's it. Blender hotkeys are similar to LightWave keys. Similar, but no, they're different. That's to Monica. You're using Blender? Yeah, Blender is a great program, but I don't feel qualified to teach it yet. That's just me. I've used it, but I don't know it inside and out like I know LightWave. And Blender is a really fine program, and it is for free. And if you want to work on that, I can talk about that next week. Okay. Yeah, if you want to use Blender, you can. And there are tons of online videos, tutorials to get you started. And they're really, really good. And it is for free. So this is, we're meeting for a total of 18 weeks. This is a very slow process. It's very, even though it looks like we're not doing anything, it's similar to the way I would teach it if we were in class. Because the textbook that's available doesn't have tutorials like this. It's really more like having, using it for reference, to know where the tools are and what they do and that sort of thing. Okay, it's not like the Adobe textbooks where they have specific lessons to get started and stuff. 3D modeling is a different animal altogether. Okay, so, you know, if you feel comfortable to build a table this week, you are in great shape. If you can get that accomplished by the end of the week. And again, just save it on your computer, and then we will build the lamp and we'll be set to go. Yeah, you can do it. If you want to do it in Blender, be my guest. If you know Blender better, then, and it's free, then sure. And I might have to switch to Blender myself. I don't know. Chris Wilson and I had talked about that, and he's already switched to Blender. And I have watched a gazillion tutorials on it. But again, I don't feel comfortable teaching it yet. So. So are we done for today? I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and I hope everybody can get their table done. And we'll take a look at some of them on Monday maybe, and we'll continue with the lamp. We'll keep going with this, okay? Another quick thing. If you haven't already done so, and for those of you who aren't here and are going to watch the video later, make sure that you email me and using kirkmillerart@gmail.com so that I can invite you to be a part of Google Drive. And even if you have accepted, make sure that you create a folder inside the shared folder that I'm giving you so that I know that you are participating. Okay. Okay, so that's it for today. We've gone on a little bit longer, and that's fine by me. We can maybe on Monday, if you guys are up to it, we can work much longer. But I'm having some computer problems, so I'm gonna stop for now, and then we'll continue on Monday. Okay, everybody. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna we're going to stop now. Pause the video and we will continue on Monday. Okay, so bye-bye. Have a good weekend, and I hope you get the table completed.